Good morning and welcome to day 2 of our 360 here in London on security and industries. Really excited about today. I think our next topic will blow your mind in terms of the kind of concept which you're going to hear about. I think it's a fantastic way of looking at how connectivity can be used in many different ways to solve many different problems. But before we delve into that, just a reminder of what today's agenda looks like. We're going to be looking at eSIM after this session, where we'll be looking to explore how security is being built into that activity through design. We then have a session on IoT, where we'll be discussing the importance of prioritising the security elements of the IoT propositions which are being developed, and that will really hopefully support that area beginning to scale. And then we have a session which will be looking at how APIs and operator data can be used to enhance enterprise propositions for their customers to keep them more safe and secure and also improve the customer experience. And then we'll round the day up with a session which will be looking at what to expect in the future on the landscape of security. So, with all of that said, I'd like to just introduce our first session. I'm really excited about it because Extreme E is something that is capturing the imagination around the world in terms of the problems that it's trying to highlight and the unique nature of the way that they approach things. So with that, I'd just like to play a small video which will give you a feel for the real-life example, and then you can hear from the guys who were over in Sardinia making one of these things happen last weekend. So over to the video.
What the issues are, then importantly what we can do to help make it well done, better for the future as well.
Medium power touch the throttle pedal, it's proper exciting drive. Extremely inside out action racing. Let's go take a boost on.
The most extreme temperatures, drive on the most extreme vehicle, backed by a team of industry-leading scientists to guarantee we not only race without a trace, but we leave a lasting legacy at every location.
Wouldn't it be great to be a part of something that really does make a difference?
This is fierce and exciting racing with the future of our planet at its heart. This is the greatest adventure of our time. This is Extreme E.
I hope that whetted the taste buds for hearing a little bit more. If I'd like to introduce Adrian up from EY, who's Extreme E's partner around sustainability, to host this panel. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Richard. So delighted to be here today. Really inspiring video about Extreme E, and delighted to be here today at this event, really looking at the impact of mobile across industries and what a case study Extreme E is, particularly around this intersection of technology and sustainability and what it means for the future of the planet. So without further ado, I'd like to invite up Ali Russell, MD of Extreme E, Dave Adey, Head of Broadcast and Technology, and let's talk through the Extreme E story, gentlemen. So, first off, very inspiring video. It'd be great to hear a little bit more about the journey that you've been on. Obviously, EY's been part of that journey for some 3 years, but just really hear more about the background and how Extreme E came to life, if you like.
Well, listen, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. We started a sister series called Formula E around, must have been 10, 11 years ago. And that was all about bringing clean air to city centres. So Extreme E is the why Extreme E, why is Extreme E needed? And really it was a platform that could help communicate climate change outside of documentaries and outside of news programs. And one of the challenges we have as a human race, because with climate change, the planet will be fine, it's the human race that's under threat, is that we're just not able to communicate to large numbers of people on the extent of the problem, but also what some of the solutions are. What are some of the things that can happen? And you know, I'm really happy that we presented to EY probably around about 4.5, 5 years ago on a PowerPoint presentation saying we were going to do all this, and they said, we want to be involved. We want to help you because we believe in innovation. We want to go on this journey with you, and we want to support you in terms of helping to develop this proposition because we believe in this proposition. So essentially what it is a motorsport, a fully electric motorsport, which is powered by green hydrogen that goes all over the world to locations that are suffering from climate change. So that can be, you know, melting ice caps and melting glaciers, so places like Greenland. It can be rising sea levels, so we've been in Dakar in Senegal. It can be deforestation like the Amazon. It can be desertification across the Middle East and the Sahara deserts. And what we do is we don't go to virgin forests and race, we go to locations that have been deforested. We go to locations that have had wildfires. We go to locations where the ice is melted back. And what we do is we show the impact of climate change, the story around climate change, using sport, but using technology and front-end technology that is being tested in some of the most extreme locations in the world. So the cold, the heat, some of these locations have never, I mean, Greenland, for instance, has never had a sport. And I think what's so interesting is, I don't know how many of you in the room have ever heard of sort of the Marvel films or the sort of Avengers Assembled, but we take the very best from Formula One, World Rally, Dakar, the likes of Lewis Hamilton you saw there, Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg, Carlos Sainz. We take the best of motorsport together and we race in some of these locations. And I think the very unique twist is we use men and women to race against each other with one car. So what that means is the teams have 2 drivers, 1 fully electric car that does 4 laps. 2 laps are done by the man, and 2 laps are done by the woman driver, and they have to swap in the middle. And so there's always a woman on the very, very top of the podium, and there's always a woman on the very bottom of the podium, and the same with the male drivers. But it sounds pretty simple. It doesn't exist in motorsport. So we're a championship that's built on the environment, built on electrification, built on equality, and the most important point is we use entertainment to be able to communicate all of those nice messages. So
that's a fantastic overview. And you know, maybe it'd be nice actually just to sort of double click on some of those, you know, specific environmental challenges, and you know, building on the fact that you're in remote locations. What are some of the key pain points, if you like, that you observe, that you experience when you're at these locations?
Well, I think what we've learned is, you know, if you take the Amazon, for example, it's a very complex problem in terms of the Amazon rainforest and deforestation, because ranching is what a lot of the inhabitants do. And ranching, of course, needs new pastures, which means you burn down more forests, and it's a cycle. And so we work with an NGO called TNC, and they're all into agroforestry. So I don't know how many of you like chocolate, but chocolate production is going down in the world. We need more chocolate, we need more cacao. Chocolate to thrive and develop, and cacao to thrive and develop, needs the canopy of the tropical rainforest. So if you enable farmers to switch from, let's say, ranching to cacao, they make 3 times the revenue that they would do through ranching, and it helps the rest of us in terms of our fetish for chocolate, and also, you know, it is the lungs of the earth, so it preserves the Amazon rainforest. And if you take very simple projects like that, where you're loaning the money to the farmers, the farmers are paying back over a long period of time from a higher income, it just makes a lot of sense. It's about working with those local environments. And I think what we try to do is, we're a motorsport first and foremost, but we try to work with the local community, we try to work with local NGOs, and to tell stories of what is happening if we don't intervene, and what are some of the positive solutions that we can get involved in. And what's really nice is EY has been our partner throughout that whole sort of process, and really has helped us become a lot more sustainable ourselves. So we have a carbon footprint of 9,000 tons of carbon. We measure that every year, and we try to see what we can do to reduce that, first of all by making positive decisions. So you've seen in the video, we're the only sport on the planet that owns our own ship, and our ship allows us to reduce our carbon footprint by around about 75%, because we're not flying those cars from A to B, or the broadcast equipment from A to B. We're actually putting them on the St. Helena and sailing them from Greenland to the Amazon to the Atacama Desert to the middle of the Arabian Desert, and so on. So you know, it's been a great partnership, and one that's multifaceted, and I know we'll have an opportunity to explore some of the other areas.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic to hear about this interconnectedness, if you like, that Extreme E has with the environment, but also the communities in those environments. And just shifting to the, you know, the technology picture now, because obviously what's also interesting about being in remote regions is that they tend to be less connected. And, you know, great to hear about the environmental side from Ali, but Dave, on the technology side, what are some of the specific challenges, you know, you're experiencing, and how are you meeting those challenges?
Well, it's interesting, you know, listening to Ali explaining all the different areas we've been to and we intend to go to. Everything has to go on the ship. There is very little that we can source on site. If we're in the Atacama Desert and we're 75 kilometers from the nearest town, you know, it's a challenge to get anything that we might have forgotten. So we have to be self-sustainable, and in everything we do, we always have an eye on the sustainability as well. So if we take power, for example, as an infrastructure, there are two key things none of us can survive on, particularly at a race. One is power, and the other is internet. So the power we can take around with us, and we have great technical partners that we work with who are very proactive in this field. And as an example, in season 1, we used hydrogen fuel cells to power the cars. For the rest of the paddock, we were using generators. Now, they weren't diesel generators, they were biofuels, so it was still a lot less carbon emissions than any diesel. And we had 12 of those in season 1. At the last race, we've substituted most of that out. We use large Zenobē Second Life batteries. We have 4 of those, and we have 4 generators that are just used as a standby. The rest of the time we're using a fuel cell to create the energy and a lot of solar panels. So yes, in our event at Sardinia at the weekend, it's the first time this has been done globally in this sort of event, and we were carbon neutral for that event. So it's not just about how do we create the power, how do we do it in a way that ticks the box and sings to the messaging that we as a championship are trying to explain. You know, we walk the walk as well as just talk the talk.
Sure. So
power, we're always making strides in terms of power, and we use a lot of technology to help us improve things. So, you know, wherever there is a challenge, there's innovation, and that's where the technology really comes to the fore. So just on power, you know, we can monitor each of the teams, the amount of power consumption they have, how much we're producing, what the excess is, where the generators might need to kick in if we're losing power in any particular area. So we're using a lot of technology, particularly around the monitoring for that. Now, when it comes to the rest of the championship, and you know, internet is a biggie, and it's always the bane of my life. I think one of the most challenging ones was Chile last year. Again, I say we were 75 kilometers away, and the local internet service provider had to lay 75 kilometers of fiber to get to us in the middle of the Atacama Desert. And it's those sorts of challenges that we face. Obviously, we use as many different technologies as we can. Fiber was the most cost-effective option for us for that race. It can be using microwave links to get the bandwidth from a specific point of presence to us on site. But internet is key to the way we communicate with our fan base, with our journalists on site, whether it's the teams and the rest of their teams back in their headquarters in the UK and elsewhere. All of our data goes via the internet as well as via satellite. So we're all pretty reliant upon the internet. And with our broadcast, again from a technology perspective and from an environmental perspective, we want to reduce the carbon footprint, the actual footprint that we have of the people on site. So we employ a remote production. And now remote production in TV terms isn't anything new, but we do it in quite a remote way in multiple locations. So we may have skeleton broadcast staff. There may be 30 broadcast staff. And when we're talking about approximately 70 cameras that are used for the racing, by the time we've had the track cameras, each of the car has 4 cameras. We have drones, we have handheld cameras. None of those are linked with cable. We use RF. And we are looking at using 5G a lot more. I'll talk about 5G in a second. So we have a skeleton staff that rig the cameras. We create what's called a race cut. That gets sent back to London via satellite, along with about 14 other camera feeds. Okay. Then we have another team in London, in Gray's Inn Road, so they're not having to travel. There's less of a carbon footprint there. And they create the program live. They assemble it live. The data comes via servers in Barcelona, the company who does all of our timing and telemetry. All the augmented reality and virtual reality comes via our NEP colleagues in Hilversum in the Netherlands. So it's a 4-site solution when we actually come to the transmission. So a combination of technology with an eye on the environment and sustainability helps us keep our footprint down, and that's just 2 of the elements that that are key to the championship. Because we don't have spectators on site, so our product is our TV product. That's what our audiences around the world need to see, and that's what we need to guarantee.
I mean, that's really fascinating, just thinking again about this intersection of sustainability and technology, and really the multi-sided way that you view technology, both what's actually happening at the race, but also from a remote production perspective. And what particularly resonated with me was that idea of the technology mix and being agile and being able to make choices and delineate between those technology choices. So really fascinating to hear. Now maybe moving just to the partner ecosystem, if you like, and I know that EY has been working with you for a number of years, and Ali, it'd be great to hear a little bit more about our relationship with you, and then perhaps Dave, we can move on to the technology side specifically as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great because, of course, you came in at a stage where we were trying to build the architecture around the championship, and so it helps to have a partner, and you came in as our innovation partner. I don't think you thought you would touch so many areas of the business, and we've really relied on you in so many areas of the business. I think the first area that we were lucky enough to work together on was sustainability. Yeah. And Dave's right, absolutely everything we do has a sustainability focus, but what's really encouraging is a lot of these sort of things have saved us in cost as well. So, this moment in time, there's no single-use plastic on site. You bring your own plate, you bring your own knife and fork, and you bring your own cups so that you can eat and drink with locally sourced food on site. And that's whether you're a member of staff or whether you're a hospitality guest. Everyone has their own plates and knives and forks, and you can find yourself washing up next to Lewis Hamilton or Jenson Button or Nico Rosberg. So, these are different ways of having hospitality and engaging with, so I suppose the sports stars. But I think that's graduated on. That's been a lot of the business side of what we're doing. Yeah. And as we're developing and moving forward, It's what are the other options that we've got? And of course, it's a global series, so we operate, you know, I talked about Africa, I talked about North America, I talked about Europe, I talked about Middle East and Asia, Latin America. You know, I think Australia is the only continent that we haven't touched yet. So, you know, to work across a variety of different jurisdictions, you need partners that understand globalization, not just working with interfaces with governments, but also working with interfaces on local companies. And that's been essential in terms of your local office network, that sort of engagement that we can get across government, because of course governments invite us into their backyard to tell stories about what they're doing from a STEM point of view, encouraging kids to take science, technology, engineering, or maths. It can be an equality drive in terms of how do we empower females. It can be driving into diversity in terms of how do we get real diversity. In motorsport, we have real problems with diversity, both on those people that are coming into motorsport, you know, in terms of, I think 2% of people are from actual diverse backgrounds and actual of color. So we need to actively be moving in different directions. And then from a fanboy's point of view, 90% of people that watch motorsport are males and older males. So we've already seen that with the style of racing that we've got with the male and female drivers, we've managed to change that to 70-30. Now, our goal and objective is to be 50-50, but it just shows how if you make a short form product that is exciting, dynamic, using men and women, gamifying it, making it more accessible to the youth culture in terms of putting it on Twitch, putting it on YouTube, putting it on Snapchat, TikTok. What you do is you bring a new audience into motorsport, and that's been helped a lot. But all of that has been helped with collaboration with EY in terms of how do we build the product, how do we commercialize it, how do we internationalize the proposition, and what do we do together? And so, you know, you've touched so many different areas of our business that it's been incredibly useful to have EY on board.
Well, that's fantastic to hear, Andy, and I like the sense of the collaborative journey that you've articulated there. Dave, maybe thinking about the technology piece specifically, I know you work with Vodafone and others, but it'd be fantastic to hear a bit about those kinds of relationships as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a great partnership with Vodafone Business and the extended, you know, Vodafone community, and we've been trying to challenge ourselves and the technology with finding solutions that will help us become a safer championship, more operationally efficient championship, as well as offering us opportunities for fan engagement. So 5G is a great example that we've been pushing for the last few races. And for us, with so much RF that we are using to either get the video off the cars or the data and telemetry off the cars, those networks are essentially full. So 5G, a private mobile network, gives us another network, another chunk of bandwidth that we can utilize. So we've been doing some proof of concept testing, and we've been testing streaming to medical cars, for example. So the medics are ahead of the game if there's an incident to respond to. They're not just waiting for a radio call from the race controller. We've been using a video collaboration tool called Proximy, which essentially we use it in terms of remote triage. So the medics on site with a camera can talk to the driver if they're getting a neck pain or a back pain. That can be communicated like a live video chat to our chief medical officer in the paddock. We can have other trauma specialists in other hospitals tuned into that as well. So we can assess the state of the patient. We can, get the helicopter on standby if we need to. All of those, precious seconds can save lives at the end of the day. We're also using the platform to look at broadcast equipment, and we did tests with some broadcast equipment, and that was ironically a really simple plug and play. I was quite pleased that there were no issues around that one. And we're looking to increase the number of CCTV cameras so the race director can see the whole of the course. And ultimately, I want to be able to get 360-degree cameras around the course to increase the fan engagement. The fans can't come here, so let's take the course to the fans. And none of that can be done without something like 5G with the low latency and high bandwidth. And that's something we're really pioneering with Vodafone. And one of the other things that they've been very helpful with is the whole Internet of Things.
Right.
So part of our legacy programs when we were in Sardinia, we were looking at the devastation from wildfires, and Vodafone came out with these sensors that can give us sort of early prediction if wildfires are likely to occur. So it's a sensor, it's a device, but it uses a network. It's a very small amount of data that's required in order to do that. But that is, it's using IoT. It's leaving a legacy. It's helping the environment. We did it in Scotland this year when we were assessing the quality of the water in the local rivers for salmon farming, and we could understand how the temperature of the water changes, whether the shade from the trees that are being eroded because the rivers are being eroded away, all these different effects. Once you collect the data from those sensors, it gives you a bigger picture of trends, but also how you combat some of those environmental things going forwards. And we're looking to see how we can help with our logistics, the amount of logistics movements we've got. Mm-hmm. Again, using IoT, that's our ambition, our aspiration over the next year or so, is to improve the way we work, make us much more efficient, and keep our carbon footprint down. And like I say, technology is there to help us. Let's exploit it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting to hear that enabling role of private networks and IoT. And also, importantly, just how it requires kind of collaboration and a partner ecosystem to unlock the full benefits. So really fascinating insights. And I guess, what's been really telling is this sense of journey that Extreme's been on over the last 3 years. But what does the future hold? And Ali, what's your sense about the future horizon, the future journey for Extreme?
Yeah, I think motorsport's been used as a sort of trial mechanic in terms of they say 1 year of racing is equivalent to 10 years of R&D, and the reason behind that is the competition. Mm-hmm. And the mindset that people bring into motorsport. So I think from our point of view, we've been able to do a lot of this innovation in some incredibly difficult places. I mean, Dave deserves an absolute medal because this is an incredibly challenging environment. But what it gives is it gives partners the ability to innovate, but innovate in some of the most inhospitable locations on the planet. But at the same time, deal with some of the biggest challenges that their own businesses that are going to have in the future, which are sustainability, and how to intersect technology and sustainability together in a real life scenario. So we're continually trying to stay ahead of the curve, and I suppose with 30% of global emissions coming from transportation, we are looking at what is the next stage for us. Electrification is London is full of low emission zones, challenges in terms of charging and so on. There's parts of the world where electrification isn't going to be possible. It doesn't, the grids don't even exist. So what are the alternatives? And we're looking to move now in 2025 to a green hydrogen championship. So what that means is we'll have hydrogen fuel cells in the car, and we will race these Extreme E cars. I think they'll be called Extreme H cars, but they'll be fully hydrogen cars, and this will be the first global hydrogen racing series to exist. The car is being tested tomorrow in just south of Paris, and we will be pressing go in October on all 10 of the cars to be ready for 2025. So again, it's in our ethos to stay ahead. Of course, sustainability is the our sort of creative direction and where we're going. How do we continue with sustainability? But it's taking these technologies that don't work currently in cars and showing that they can work. They can have incredible performance, agility in some of the harshest environments, And that's all part of our philosophy and where we're going to go. And what I would say is EY have been on that journey with us until now. I'm sure they'll continue to be on the journey, but we're very open to have conversations with other brands and businesses that aspire to go on a similar journey and to test their mettle, so to speak. So looking forward to that very much.
That's fantastic, Ali. You know, very inspiring just to hear about the journey and also the outlook, you know, Extreme E to Extreme H. So thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your insights. Really, really interesting to hear, and wish you every success going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys. That's like truly inspiring in terms of the way that technology is being adapted to be able to solve those real operational challenges. All right, now we move on to the next section of today's session. We've got eSIM. We're going to be looking at the impacts it will have on mobile and beyond. It really is a transformational technology in terms of the mobile space. It's going to be divided into two sessions. We're going to have the first one from Bix, which will share insight into the new NIS Reg 2 regulation and how IoT Safe will help enterprises to implement an end-to-end security solution. And then we'll hear from Adrian from Serial Wireless, and he'll explain how to provide secure IoT solutions and how eSIM answers a lot of the market's flexibility needs. So with that, I'd like to welcome Raphael onto the stage. Thank you.
So nice meeting you. I'm Raphael. I'm head of customer success management at Bix. 25 experience in the telco industry, and here it's really about the enterprise solutions that I'm managing on pre and post sales. And today, unfortunately, after the session we just had, I must admit that this session will be a little bit less exciting. It's a bit more down to earth, but still important. So the topic I'm bringing here today is about the security, about the IT solution, and trying to find a way that helps end-to-end security, especially on the connectivity side, security by design. So when you look at today's ecosystem, and basically this slide has been, I would say, commented in his content the whole day of yesterday, about what are the potential risks, threats that we have in the ecosystem on 5G, but on IoT as well, about the fact that you have so many different deployments. It's worldwide. There are so many number of devices, applications end-to-end going from one level to another, and all have a very big risks. We speak about denial of service, we speak about hacking. All those things are reality. I think it was quite interesting yesterday, the session of Anna also explaining some of those realities about the artificial inflated traffic, about the fraud. But this is basically all those entry points are there. So this complexity means also that has been shown by statistics that that has grown, those attacks have grown by 87% year over year in the last 5 years. So it's really a reality that you have to address. And a lot of, I would say, solution vendor will start probably without looking that much to it, but at the end will be confronted by it and will have a real risk, monetary risk, regulatory risk, legal risk of not addressing it. So if you come today in the IoT space and look at the connectivity side, the surface of attacks we find them in three main groups: the device layers, all the devices, your connected car, your smartwatches, your mobile phone, your TVs, your fridges, your everything. You find it in the network layer, from the radio to the core network. Every item can be hacked somehow. And of course, the application. Everyone finds new ideas, new applications. Every day you have new companies, startups, finding new ways of selling a new product, a new service. And this basically increases that complexity. And this brings to this brought a lot of attention to the European Commission, but also to the rest of the world, bringing them to think about what they should do about it. And so they started thinking about it several years ago, coming in 2019 with the Cybersecurity Act, where they were forcing or pushing, recommending that you had a kind of certification to solve a lot of the vulnerabilities that you could find into the systems and try to block the information. And this was not enough, as we just mentioned. And so they came up last year with the Network Information Security version 2, the NIS2. And this was really aimed, I think it's very important, about the critical sectors. So in Europe, I know that I'm in the UK, so maybe this might not be as actual as it is, but in Europe, they really look at this part of critical sectors. The weaknesses after the war in Ukraine has also shown that we have a weak point by depending on other things, so we have to enhance security on our critical sectors. Critical sectors is about energy, it's about transport, it's about public health, it's about water, it's about waste. It's everything that is there and that has been encouraged. And all those sectors today are implementing, either through private networks or not, are implementing IoT solutions. So what did the NIS2 come with is say, if we address the critical sectors, you need to find a technical solution that addresses the end-to-end security in a standardized way with standard technologies, with technical specification, and that can address the whole entire life cycle of the device and the SIM. So this is what they want you to come. So it comes out that they want to get out of proprietary solution. It has to be something interoperable, something replaceable, something easy to implement. So a real simplicity. And of course, it brings a lot of challenges with it. And the challenges is, if you have to implement it, is I have multiple vendors. How do I make it work together? I have thousands of devices, old, new. How do I manage that? I don't want to be, cannot afford to be locked in a proprietary solution. I want to be able to be free of whatever vendor is providing me. And I'm looking this, and being a carrier at BICS, I know it's a bit preaching against my own choir, but I don't want to be tied to my own connectivity vendor. I want to be able to change connectivity vendor also in a secured way. So basically, how can I find a robust single root of trust for this simplified solution? And where does it be located so that you can solve both the device, the connectivity, and the application layer? And that is where GSMA and the solution of IoT Safe came in, with the idea of leveraging. I'm sorry about the animations. I click around it because I don't like to present animations, but basically the IoT Safe, which is coming up with an applet into the SIM, because the SIM is the best root of trust for end-to-end security. We speak about that for a moment that you have your application that talks to your server, that could be in your cloud, in your hybrid cloud, in a public cloud. But the SIM becomes your crypto safe where you put all the credentials, the security credentials. And this fulfills also, as we will see, the eSIM promise that Adrien will also explain afterwards. Because at the end, for the moment, it's a physical SIM. If you're an eSIM, you can still change the eSIM and still keep the whole credentials on the device thanks to the technology. So coming from traditional solutions, and they are good, but there are still, you have to work on different aspects, as Fortinet was showing yesterday. The physical security, you don't know the root of the devices. You don't know the quality of the devices. You know that there is a price tag to it. So you might go for cheaper devices, less quality, so maybe more sensitive to attacks. The fact that you have so many different devices and middleware, you have customized solutions. So coming with customized security solutions is great projects, but takes a lot of time to implement and always have to be updated for new vulnerabilities. The provisioning is always complex. And the important part when we speak about lifecycle, those devices, especially in IoT, and we speak about broadband, Extreme was talking about the sensors and so on. Those sensors are narrowband IoT. They have to go for 10 years, 15 years. And so basically you need to update them security-wise. You need to be able to update those devices with their new firmware, with security updates. So this, with IoT Safe, you can solve because all the strength lies into the SIM applet. The APIs, the SIM are fully standardized, so everyone can just download it and implement it. The provisioning happens over OTA, so no touch, there is no physical interaction, it's all automatic. And you manage easily the lifecycle management. And the end-to-end encryption at the end between your application and your server are fully encrypted through TLS, which is also part of the encryption that is seen as the 5G part to keep all this solution future-proof. So how does it look like? Basically, you have the IoT application, the server, and then you want to have encrypted data between them. So basically what happens, either the customer or your provider has a certificate authority, but they will implement an IoT safe security server, and they will provide it. So by providing the applet and the SIM, or the eSIM, or the iSIM, because we're already talking about iSIM also today, is the fact that as an application, you get from your vendor a full secured SIM with an applet that is linked to an IoT safe security server, which mainly is connected towards the certificate authority. So basically what happens is that whenever you connect, there's a whole first exchange of credential with a certification, a signing certificate, so that the credentials are stored, kept, the public key infrastructure is exchanged, all the keys are exchanged while registering, and then stored on the SIM card through the SDK. And then through using the standard GSMA API applets, you basically keep this work ongoing. And so this allows you to have, at the end, a pure TLS for your encrypted data between your application and your server. And now you can choose how you want to provide it. We as BICS, we are both a SIM provider and a connectivity. We work with companies like Thales to provide the IoT safe. You can play it a different way, but you are not tied to your specific vendor if you want to change it. To give a more another idea of how it's practically implemented is in the case of, for example, zero-touch smart meters. Could be happening on the sensors that we were just talking about. You start with a device that connects and wants to register, and it registers with the IoT safe. It shares his keys. The keys are shared to IoT safe, who goes for a certificate signature to the customer PKI infrastructure, so the public key infrastructure, that signs a certificate. OTA and the provisions the certificates on the applet. The TLS connection is established so that using those certificates, the public key are sent back to confirm with for signature, and so now the device in the cloud can securely communicate. So this is really the idea. So we believe, and BICS also, is that the IoT safe, while answering the NIS2 regulation, is also actually a good method to look beyond Europe and the NIS2 regulation. It's an easier way to implement globally, solving a big part of the end-to-end security, where you don't rely specifically on your hardware vendor to comply on your cloud provider, because you could have an application both in Amazon and in Azure or in Google and still having their proprietary solutions. You can keep it as a complete interoperable solution. So to conclude, basically, what we come with IoT Safe and for the NIS2, it offers you that end-to-end security with encryption, which is what you want. It's standardized, so it's easy to implement. It works with all cellular devices, so it's future-proof, and works for every type of devices, independent of the technology. And what is important, seeing the future, it's complying with the eSIM promise and the iSIM promise, because basically you can exchange it. You can change the SIM, your eSIM, and still keep the encryption happening to the applet on the device and re-exchange it with the SIM. And it's there for the whole life cycle because you can update it and exchange it. So this is a bit the idea we have and that we provide also. This is us, so I will not go quickly over that. I was forced to put that slide in, so okay. But well, this is my story about NIS2 and IoT Safe. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Raphael. I don't think you've done yourself an injustice. That was interesting, and it's the magic which makes all of the good stuff which he was talking about happen. So thanks very much. Yeah, now if I could welcome Adrian on stage from Sierra Wireless. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. You can hear me here. So I'm Adrien Berioki. I'm EMEA Senior Director of Sales, IoT Connect Services for Sierra Wireless. I will bring you to the eSIM today, and also I would like to make an update on Sierra Wireless because you will see there a Semtech company, so this is the news of the year. So I will explain to you that we have joined. So Semtech acquired us in January 12th, so now we are a big company, so more than 1 billion. That's really the new company that we are in. You see the new logo of Semtech integrating the dot of Sierra. So now we are a Semtech company. It's a very good step because in terms of product for Semtech, this is the entry on the cellular world. So Sierra is dedicated to the IoT and cellular since 30 years, and Semtech acquired Sierra. So it's really a fit of product line. You will see on the next slide how it is. So a game changer in the industry. We were in MWC in order to show that. So there were lots of questions about how you can do and so on, but definitely a big step in the industry. You see the keyword of Semtech, connected and sustainable. This is really what we believe in. One thing I would like you to take away is that we are a full MVNO. Yesterday, during the break, when I speak about Sierra Wireless, you think module, because since 30 years, we are the first module, but we are a full MVNO. When I say full MVNO, you need to take that this is my business, 80% of what we are connected is non-Sierra device. So we are much more than connected the device of Sierra. So that means that we have strategic partnership. So one is big, that is in the room. And also we are a member of the GSMA. So please keep in mind that Semtech now is a full MVNO with all the infrastructure, the CNOC, access of more than 600 networks over 180 countries. So really take that in mind that we are a full MVNO. Now, how do we do that? Since the beginning of the year, and now we are really in the strategy to do a chip-to-cloud strategy. So you see that there are two main divisions in the IoT, the hardware and the software. From my side, I am the upper part. This is where I am. And one of them is the managed connectivity, the full MVNO I was talking to you. And you see that below there is a hardware part that integrates also the LoRa chip of Semtech and all the product line of Sierra. So really now we have a chip-to-cloud strategy. We can make all in for the customer. And you see that is the development. That is really what we believe in. So we're a new company, a new start. So more than welcome to explain that to you if you want. But that's really a game changer in the industry. And as I was saying during the break of some of the people, there is no product overlap. That means that it's not a question of having the same product, same customer, economy of scale. It's really extending the time for the two companies. Now, back to be sustainable. This is what we believe in, to be connected and sustainable. There is one source of IoT analytics that says that 75% of IoT solutions support United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that's really a key point that we see. I'd like to say that the most important is what you provide to the cloud. I have seen customers that they have no idea to do what to the data, so they ship everything to the cloud, and then they mine the data. The best data is the data that is useful. That means that you need to know your business before you ship to the cloud. And the less data you ship, the more sustainable you are. So that's what I say to the customer. You need to know your business before you do your IoT solution to understand why you are shipping the data to the cloud and not shipping everything to the cloud and to see, I will see after. Now, back to our subject of the day, regarding eSIM and so on. As Raphael mentioned, for us, here is just a support. It's just to show you that there is different form factor. You have the SIM that you know because you have that in the mobile phone. You have the one that you can solder on the device, and then you have iSIM. But whatever it is there, it's just a support for us. You will have all the profile that Raphael explained to you will be in whatever the support. So I would like to know that, for instance, our new module has eSIM inside. On that one, Sierra was a pioneer because our R2C was launched 4 years ago. So now all the module makers are doing that, but we are the first to do that. And as I mentioned to you, compared to the other module maker, we are a full MVNO and we are connected 80% of non-Sierra device. There are lots of questions about eSIM and so on. When I use eSIM, I use behind the technology of EYCC, so the ability to change your profile, as Raphael explained, in a safe way. Now, our security approach, there is two parts of the story. Of course, on the upper part, you see the standard that we are fulfilling, the MITRE, and also, of course, the GSMA standard. We are using 30 years of experience in which we are always going to the standard for the security. At the end of the day, the most important is the 2 points below. One of them is that we are doing security on top of the telco security, because when you provide with our chip to cloud, that means that if you take everything and you have one partner in charge of the security from the module, the chip, the connectivity and the cloud, that's really what we can provide, this end-to-end security, because you have only one partner. That's the key point. The second point is that we have a dedicated product security team. Does not depend on any product, so it's responsible to the security of our product worldwide. I love when Hakim from Airbus say, pay attention in our RFP when there is an item about security, we pay attention to that. It's exactly why we have this team. So they are in charge of making the security all over the world, and also when we have key RFP and we have to explain why we are secure, this is this team that is responsible of the answer. So on the top standard, and then a global approach with the people on your team. Now, I would like to speak about eSIM, because now that you have seen that eSIM is secure, why using eSIM? That provides two things to the market: the supply chain flexibility and also the development flexibility. Supply chain flexibility is because you have no SIM inventory, so that's the last physical part that you have. So you still have sometimes customer expecting their SIM. It doesn't happen very, very often, but you don't have to manage. And if you have different form factor, for example, in your SIM, that could be something that take time. So, and also you are non-hardware dependent. I forgot to say something about the plastic SIM in terms of security. You can also avoid by eSIM to have the SIM in the module, a SIM swap, and that your SIM could be taken to fraud in terms of security. Keep that also in mind. Deployment flexibility. So now that you can change your profile and so on, you can make your design, because most of the time when you do an IoT project, you don't start with the connectivity, you start with the technology. Do I go to LPWA, do I go to LTE, and so on? There is this question. Once you have answered your question, you will do your design. And then you will go to the connectivity. So that's really easy to know that, okay, I do my design, and I will go to the connectivity when I need. So when I go to whatever country. And that's really easy for worldwide deployment. So this is really an answer that we are expecting the market, that you can really change your profile and really so make your supply chain and deployment flexible. Now, there is two challenges that we see on the field that are still there and that we would like to address in Sierra with our new solution. The two challenges that you see, the first one is a permanent roaming. So you have some country, it's always the same with customers. So they are asking Brazil, they're asking Australia. So there are some countries that does not allow permanent roaming, and you need to have local profile. That's the challenge number one. The challenge number two is that even if now you can change your profile and so on, you have to take care of it. I mean that you have to go to Brazil, you want to change your profile, but you have to find your MNO and change the profile. And this is exactly what we are addressing, because in our DNA for Sierra Wireless is to have an always on and a global SIM. That's what we believe in since the beginning of Sierra Wireless. And this is what we are doing. So for instance, as of today, a bit complex with what I show to all our customers is how we build our own resilience without the local profile that I come later on. So you see that you have our SIM with a multi-IMSI approach. So everyone today will speak about multi-IMSI. The most important is how you use multi-IMSI. At Sierra, we have patented solution in order to optimize multi-IMSI. And the goal is wherever you are in the world, you will find a way to go through the network. I like to say that there is the first one when you say that there is the base station doesn't work, is something you know with your mobile phone. What you know less is that in the middle, when there is signal storm, we'll find a way dynamically to avoid that. And I like to say that we are the ways of the IoT, because whatever happens in a seamless way, you will be always connecting sensitive technology. So it will be done on the background, and with a patented technology based on multi-IMSI, and it's really what our customer cares. So that means that if you want to be always on in a resilient way, and in a critical usage, that's why you use our advanced technology. But now, as I mentioned to you, you may have a question about how do I do permanent roaming? And this is how comes the premium. So our premium solution that we start this year, so it's public. I invite you to have a look. So we have make a lot of PR about that. It's a way to address the permanent roaming. That means that now, if you go to this premium in a seamless way, when you arrive in Brazil, the SIM will say, okay, I am in Brazil, for instance, I need a local profile, and will download the local profile, and will go on the local MNO, and you will be on the local network. And then you take the same SIM, and you go back to Europe. It will go on the upper part, and here you will have the full advanced technology that I was saying. So that's really what we believe on. That thanks to EYCC, so we address the two challenge. The first one is a local MNO profile, and the second one is the fact that it's one SIM global. That means that I show you everything what is inside, but at the end of the day, you will have one SIM. You can go wherever you go. You can go if you have a new country. This is part of our daily job. Is that we have customers start in one country. They make the solution. It works. It's a fit, and then they can scale. They can go wherever they want in the world, and we address all the issue. And this is where we do believe in that one, that we have a business. We find a way to use the technology in order to address a business challenge. That was for my presentation. So you see how it is secure and how we answer this market need. If you have any question regarding our premium solution, more than happy to exchange with you in the break.